Lawsome by ConsultWebs. Breakthrough insights to build a thriving law firm with your host, Tanner Jones.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Lawsome episode. Today on the show, we're talking with Katie McManus, business strategist, coach, and founder of Katie McManus Coaching. She uses her expertise in business, coaching, sales, and marketing to work with attorneys and entrepreneurs who want to build up their revenue and create a business without sacrificing their freedom, a stable income, and their sanity. Katie has a background in business to consumer as well as business to business sales, and she was trained in executive business coaching and leadership development at the Coactive Training Institute in San Rafael, California. She's a certified professional coactive coach and an associate certified coach with the International Coaching Federation. Today's topic is navigating the challenges of scale, how to be a good lawyer while bringing in new clients and being a good leader, something we all strive to be. Welcome, Katie, and thank you so much for making time to join us on the show today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Tanner. I'm delighted to be here.
Well, let's dive in. You know as well as I that the legal profession requires a ton of time invested in a wide range of business, like strategies, obviously sales and advertising and marketing, all very important, networking, research, and obviously so much more. And attorneys that are new in the profession, they very well may have time to build a business, but naturally there's a lot that's going into that. Just the complexities of ultimately building a business from scratch is often intimidating in and of itself. So given your experience, Katie, in working with entrepreneurs and professionals who struggle with maybe time management and things related to time management, what would you say is the first step for those attorneys looking to start a law firm?
Yeah, the first step is really you have to let go of the expectation that you're going to naturally know how to start a business. I love to remind my clients who have a lot of training, lawyers, accountants, anyone who has to go through, tests and training, that they spend a long time learning how to have the expertise to do what they do. The business side of it is a completely different skill set. So the first step is release yourself of the expectation that this is going to come naturally. It's not. Even the most skilled salespeople had to get trained on sales, okay? It doesn't come naturally to anyone. So first that, and second, get really, really comfortable putting yourself out there and being visible, because you cannot be a secret and a success at the same time.
That's so true. As a marketing company, you never want to be known, like for us, you never want to be known as the best kept secret. That's not a great thing for marketing. So from, based on in your years of working with entrepreneurs, especially in the startup phase, obviously you've helped entrepreneurs grow, especially attorneys grow in this process, but reaching out and getting help is probably one of the bigger challenges. There's some ego in this profession.
Oh yeah.
It's a challenge, sometimes just to reach a hand out and say, how can I help or how can you help in this process? So can you speak to the benefits and maybe even the advantages of hiring someone who can lead a lawyer through this process if it's new to them?
Of course. Well, one of the biggest challenges in starting any business is that if you haven't done it before, you genuinely do not know what you don't know. And so I think what holds a lot of people up from reaching out to a business strategist, a coach, or even a consultant is that they aren't necessarily sure what kind of support they need. And so they aren't sure what qualifications they should be looking for. And I unfortunately hear quite often that people hire business coaches and don't get what they want out of it because they aren't sure about what they need from it. I just got off the phone with someone who had hired a business coach and didn't realize until they'd been working together for just a few months that this person was just a sales coach. And so they didn't have any expertise in how to create an offer, how to market, how to build up any of the foundations for a business except having that one sales call. And so I think the biggest challenge that new business owners and lawyers in particular have to face and really sift through is, where are my strengths and where are my weaknesses? They have to really assess and be honest with themselves. What do they thrive at and what do they need some support on? And then take that list of what they need support on and go and shop around for a coach or a strategist based on that.
Very helpful. And I would ask, can you walk through that process for someone who may not have gone through the process of introspectively evaluating
Yeah.
the good and the bad? How can they even start that?
Well, it's basically thinking about what are the things every day that you dread? What are the things that you're like, I really suck at this, or you get really self-conscious about, or you find yourself putting off and putting off and putting off. For instance, posting on social media. Social media is one of the best places where we can all go. It's free for us to post. We can share a little bit of our knowledge, our sense of humor. We can share our personality and let people feel like they're in relationship with us. And then feel like they're a friend enough so that if they need legal help, we'll be the first person that they call. And I say we as if I'm a lawyer, I'm not. But anyway, so if you're not posting to social media, whatever the reason is, you need some support on social media. And so you need to look for a coach who has a specialty or at least is strong in their social media advising. That's one of the things that I help my clients with. Likewise, if you're having a lot of great conversations with prospective clients and they're not turning into actual paying clients, then, there's some indication there that your sales call sucks. So you need to learn how to get better at sales. Likewise, if you spend all of your time spinning your wheels and doing busy work, you're not being strategic with the activities that you need to do. So you need to have a coach who kind of understands how you should be splitting your time between billable hours, prospecting, doing, marketing activities, and so on and so forth.
Those are all great places to start. And I think that's where it comes down to, asking yourself some of those questions you may not have spent time really self-evaluating, like where do I struggle? What do I dread going into this particular task or this responsibility? It's a great place. But I want to step back, as you made a comment about it's often a misalignment when someone hires a business coach, for example, and finding later that maybe they only handle one piece of the pie and it's not the holistic support that they were looking for. They just didn't know necessarily how to articulate that or request that in the beginning, which implies strategy is everything in the beginning here. Business and marketing clearly go hand in hand. That's why it's so important to create solid strategy in the instance of attracting clients. Strategy is everything from the beginning to the end. Unfortunately, and you've alluded to this, not all of us are experts in all of these individual core areas that make a lawyer or a law firm successful. And so it is often a significant learning process just to be able to kind of fill in those gaps. So speak to, if you would, Katie, how can a professional balance being both a good lawyer, but also balance the need to consistently get out there and drive new business in the door, all while being a good leader?
Yeah, I mean, the best thing a lawyer can do is really realize that they have their expert speak. They have the way that they speak about the law, they speak about cases, they speak about their clients' issues, and that is a different language to their clients. So one of the first activities I always have my newer clients do when they don't have a book of business yet is to go out and actually interview their ideal clients. And the reason I have them do that is because I need them, they know the problems that they solve, but they need to understand all the words and the language that their clients are using to describe their own problems. Okay? Because one of the things that you're going to have to do as you're building this business is you're going to have to go out and just talk about what you do. And that's only going to be useful if people understand who you're relevant to. I want every single business owner to constantly be thinking about every interaction they have. That other person who's speaking with them is kind of processing them and remembering them as, how are you useful to me? And if it's in legal jargon and they don't understand it, then there's going to be no place for that in their brain. However, if you're describing the problem that my neighbor Linda was just describing about her husband having at work, in the language that she was using after having a couple beers at the barbecue, I'm going to be able to go and say, oh my God, you solved that problem? I have to tell Linda, do you have a card? Because I know someone who needs you.
Hopefully our listeners take a moment to really soak that up, because that's so big. And over talking, I think, is a common fallacy, if you will, in this process, because we often, when we're writing content for a law firm website, we have licensed attorneys on staff producing and editing that content, but they're still writing on a 5th grade reading level for a reason, to be relatable to the marketplace, to not over talk, And so I think what you're saying there is it's been proven to be gold if lawyers really commit to taking the time to go through that process.
One of the things that I work on with my clients is when you're posting to social media, you have to remember that other people are reading social media wanting brownie points, meaning that they're reading your post wanting to comment, but they're wanting to comment in a way that is going to be seen as valuable. They're wanting to comment in a way that they can be seen as funny, intelligent, relevant, being in on the conversation. If you're using language that is over their head or that they don't understand, or even if you're referring to someone that they do not know, they're going to feel left out of the conversation. And what happens when they feel left out is they're not going to comment. Even if they could comment, even if they are, understood 90% of what you wrote, that 10% that they didn't understand is just enough risk that they may look stupid, that they're not going to comment. So when we're going on social media to get business, one of the most important things is getting high engagement on our posts, right? And you can only get high engagement on your posts when people are fully comfortable commenting on the things that you've written. And for lawyers, predominantly, LinkedIn is such an amazing spot to get business, because the people on LinkedIn generally have a lot more money to buy with. And it's really, it's an amazing professional platform. If you're looking for a professional referral to give, LinkedIn is where you go. You go and you ask everyone, who do you know? Who is in your network? Who are you comfortable with? Who has done an amazing service for you so far?
Katie, I want to come back to the concept of balancing, because that's a struggle that not just lawyers, any entrepreneur, anybody running a business, and it's a constant whack-a-mole game to many business owners. And the idea of balance, it's like, where's that? It's a challenge. It's something that most understand. Yeah, it would be valuable if I could get there, but I'm not there. So I'd love to hear any secret recipes that you've learned or you've guided and coached your clients on in the past about being a good leader and finding the balance while running a business.
Yeah. So, balance is one of the hardest things for business owners, and specifically business owners who are also lawyers, to have. Lawyers, you have last minute emergencies. You have things that come up. You have, things that have to be filed that you didn't realize had to be filed by a certain date. There are always fires that you have to put out. To have balance, you have to get really good at saying no to stuff. You have to get good at saying no to staying late on days where, you have a ton of stuff on your desk, but you also have a family at home that you want to go and see and have dinner with. The papers aren't going anywhere. So go home and tend to your family. That time will rejuvenate you and make you so much better able to tackle the things on your desk the next day. If you're able to say, no, it's 6 p.m., I have to go home now. I have to go home. I have to tune out. I have to, be in my own head and have some downtime so that I can do this work really well. The other element here to balance is learning how to delegate. And when you're running your own business, delegating is one of the hardest things, because you know how you want it done. You know the standard by which you would love this work done. But figuring out how to communicate that to someone else and trusting them to at least do it 80% the way you would do, and then either helping them get that rest of the 20% or being okay with it at 80% is the biggest challenge, honestly.
You've touched on a few challenges. I'd like to work into time management, because I think that's a part of all of this. Starting a business, naturally full of challenges from day to day, lots of things to consider, but clearly time management is arguably one of the more important ones of those if you want to get the right things done. So considering that the legal profession is often very busy, a very demanding career, having a daily schedule and relying on technology can be very, very helpful. So what's your advice to lawyers who are having trouble organizing time or organizing their business, and maybe even any technological solutions you've come across?
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like all of my clients who are lawyers, maybe not all of them, but many of them have ADHD. And I think that's really common for the profession, because to be able to become a lawyer, you really do have to hyper-focus. And attention deficit hyperactivity disorder isn't actually a deficit of attention. you're unable to regulate when you have that attention, right? So you hyper focus on things. So studying law is something that requires that hyper focus. And one of the things that people with ADHD have is a very hard time bouncing from task to task, right? So you have to wear a lot of different hats already. If you're trying to bounce between three to six different tasks a day, you're actually losing so much energy in that shift. And so one of the things that I see new business owners and even seasoned business owners struggling with is that they have 17 different things that they have to do in one day. And they lose half of their day just switching gears. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that I always recommend for time management is to block out not just an hour, but block out half a day for admin tasks. Because one of the things with people with ADHD is that when you know that there's going to be an interruption, even if it's just an alarm on your phone telling you that your time is up to work on this, you spend the entire time worrying about when that interruption is coming. And you have a very hard time actually getting into hyper-focus and getting stuff done. And so whatever admin tasks, like, balancing the books, setting up social media content for the week, anything that's going to require any kind of creativity or effort, you really do need to block out a greater chunk of time to be able to get into it and make any progress on it. Otherwise, that thing is just going to get kicked down the line. Mm-hmm. And you're never going to get to it. And it's just going to stress you out more and more and more until you finally get it done.
What's your take on this concept of technology and using technology to build more time in your calendar? Is that the wrong way of looking at it? Is there a one-size-fits-all solution here?
Technology is great so long as you remember to use it. Mm-hmm. Right? And so, I'm very basic. I have my Google Calendar. I block off time there. I have invested so much time and money in buying these elaborate online technological, project trackers and time trackers, and to help me stay on goal and on task. And I've never used any of them. Honestly, my business manager has me set up on ClickUp, and I took a look at it and I was like, listen, this is great for you, but I never want to look at this. This stresses me out. So, those technology is amazing if you have the right people to manage it for you. And if you're one of those people who's going to diligently check into it and set it up properly. However, if you're not that kind of person, stop holding yourself to that belief that you're going to become that person. Oftentimes with my clients who, are 2 or 3 years into their business, we start working together and they lay out their whole tech stack and they're only using like 2 out of the 10. And what a waste of money and time. And then you just feel guilty for not using them. So I hate to come across as anti-tech. I love technology, but only if you use it.
And that's the point. Yeah, honestly, in asking the question, I think we have often this mindset that the next piece of software is gonna save my business, or it's gonna do this and it's gonna transform us, and I think at the root of it it's flawed, because just as you're suggesting, if you're not committed to building it in as part of your day-to-day and using it, not just you but full buy-in often across the entire organization of your law firm, it's often going to sit in the dark closet.
Right.
And it's doing absolutely no good, and in fact it's costing you money, and spend a lot of time just getting it off the ground to sit does very little to your law firm. And so I'm aligned with your thinking, and I appreciate you. It doesn't have to be complicated. It can be truly as simple as you want it to be. It's just a matter of being able to manage the time appropriately, and finding some of those simple hacks, just as you suggested. So thank you for that.
Well, and one of the beautiful things about growing this business is that you are going to be able to hire the right support staff. Okay. And that support staff is going to be able to implement and maintain the right technology stack that allows for you to stay organized, allows for you to stay on top of client work, that allows for you to remember all the things that you need to do. And so as your business grows, there is technology that can be brought in, but like you don't have to be the person who manages it. Let's optimize. We have these amazing lawyers who are trying to do everything in their business. And it's like, no one else in the business has your specialty. Let's optimize you for billable hours and for bringing in more clients and leave the rest of the stuff to other people.
And part of, that's a huge, huge piece to being a good leader. Another important piece to being a good leader is around the concept of goal setting. So I'd like to shift our conversation a little bit into the piece of setting realistic goals. But this is a challenge for a lot of law firms. Either they find themselves overly aggressive when they're setting goals and just sorely disappointed, when the end of the year rolls around, or they're just barely, setting a goal from just to do a little bit better than last year when they could really be knocking it out of the park. What is your take on this, and how would you guide a lawyer in this process of setting realistic goals?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably not the right person to talk to about realistic goals. I'm a firm believer of shoot for the stars, land on the moon. Right? And so whenever I'm doing goal setting with my clients, there are two goals we're setting. We're setting the goal of what they want, right? Because as a society, we're taught and kind of conditioned to only go for the things that we can justify that we need, right? And I know that we are capable of achieving so much more. And also we're completely deserving of having so much more. So what is it that you want? And also what is it that you absolutely need to make this work, right? Usually whenever you set a goal, you're going to reverse engineer it so that you know the action steps and the amount of sales calls you need to have and everything to reach that goal. So if you're really reaching for what you want, you're probably going to land well above what you need. And so one of the activities I have my clients do is really figure out, how much is a client typically worth? And of course they're humans. They have like immense worth. There's no way to attribute any value to a human being. However, how much money would they bring in your firm over the lifetime of them being with you? Great. So you really have to figure out how much that is, how much they could possibly bring in that year, and then figure out how many new clients you have to sign to reach that, how many billable hours you have to do to reach that. Is that realistic? Because we can't set you up to then do, 80 hours a week of billable hours, all year long. That's not realistic. And then dial it back to how many sales calls do you need to have? One of the things that new business owners expect is that every single person they talk to is going to become a client. And that's just not the case. If you're priced accordingly, you should only be signing 1 to 2 clients per 4 conversations that you're having.
I think the whole concept of, shooting for the stars, and that is especially in this profession, it seems to align well. It's typically a competitive profession naturally. And so I think a lot of our listeners can absolutely relate to that. I think the other side of goal setting is, the strategy, which we've alluded to in the beginning. You started going through the facts, and strategy obviously plays a role in that. But what about data? So, from my standpoint in setting realistic or ambitious goals, you need something to lean on. Have you worked with clients in the past, or have you guided clients with respect to, what are your anchor points, or what should I be looking at or tracking any given year to get a better baseline on what is achievable and how I can set even more proper goals in the future?
Yeah, I mean, tracking data is really important when you first start out, because when you first start out, you're throwing spaghetti at the wall. You're not sure what's going to work. You're not sure, if you go and speak I had one client who was an immigration attorney, and, he has a ton of options for generating new business. There's social media, there's going and speaking at churches, where his ideal clients might be in attendance, or at least their family members. There's a whole slew of things, but you try a bunch of them and you see what works. You see how many sales conversations does one thing generate over the other. And really, it goes back to that conversation around time management and balance, is that once you realize something doesn't have an ROI that's as high as other things, you need to cut it. It can't be a part of your everyday. You have to just let it go, even if you've built up some momentum there. There's also, There's also this question of, what do you enjoy doing? You know, if you love being on Twitter, but absolutely hate being on Instagram, but you're getting business there, in the long term, you're probably going to end up getting more business from Twitter because you actually genuinely enjoy it. And you're going to do it consistently. And you're going to build a community there. And what you're saying on Instagram that's generating business is probably going to start translating in Twitter land and generating business there as well. So, you know, I think there's a lot of sadism that happens in building a business. You think this has to be hard. It has to be miserable. I'm going to make myself suffer through it. And actually, no, you have to stick with the things that you actually like doing, or else you're never going to stick with them.
That's so refreshing.
I mean, for me, I absolutely love LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. I've made incredible friendships. I generate a good chunk of my business every year from LinkedIn. I have a lot of fun there. I actually get anxiety if I don't post there over a few days. You know, it's something that is so ingrained in my life now. And Twitter, I don't understand. Like, you couldn't pay me to be on Twitter. It just doesn't make sense to me. And it doesn't seem fun. It doesn't seem like you build a lot of relationships there, at least not for my personality type. So you have to really go where you enjoy spending time.
It's sound advice. And naturally, that's where you're going to stay committed. You know,
Right.
going back to the software concept. If
Right.
it's a good idea in theory, but you haven't bought in to the concept, it's likely never going to stay the course. So that's a great point.
It's kind of like diet culture. You know, if you're going to commit to a diet, but it's all stuff that's miserable for you to eat, are you really going to stick with it? Probably not.
You know, starting a business is going to be challenging, naturally, and trying to get new clients while managing that business can be overwhelming, especially in the early years. There are consistently, and thankfully for this, there are consistently, you know, quality coaches out there guiding business owners, guiding law firms with strategy and you know, identifying the gaps that they're missing and helping them plug those gaps. So during your time working with law firms and working within the legal profession, what are some of the key areas of opportunity that you've noticed? And that may help just kind of, you know, some of our listeners who are hearing this and they're still maybe scratching their heads on, all this is great, but you know, where do you even begin to make improvement? What are some of those big golden egg opportunities for law firms right now?
Okay, I'm so glad you asked this question. Okay, so customer success, like how happy are your clients, is the number one opportunity that you're going to have to make sure that you get referrals from those clients. And this is so simple. This is so simple. This is what I tell all of my clients who are attorneys to do, is carve out 1 hour per week. 1 hour per week where you literally just go through and call each and every one of your active clients and just give them an update on the case, even if there's no update. And when you're signing the client, make sure that they know that they're going to get this call every week. They can answer, they don't have to answer, but it's just a check-in point so that they know that you're paying attention, you're there, you're caring. Because unfortunately, people don't hire lawyers for fun. People hire lawyers when there's something stressful going on, or they're thinking about the worst case scenario and they need some help. And so you really have to tune into that emotional need that your clients have. And once you do that, it is so simple. Just telling them, hey, I'm thinking about you, looking at the case. We don't have any updates, but I wanted to make sure you knew there are no updates, but I'll call you as soon as there are. That is enough to bring that anxiety level down and have them turn to whoever they were standing next to when they got that call and say, oh my God, my lawyer's phenomenal. Going through this thing, they call me every Tuesday at 2 p.m. or around that time and just let me know what the next step is.
I have to ask this because I know our listeners, someone out there is asking this themselves. Is this something I can delegate? Could I hand this to a paralegal or an office administrator to handle this? What's your take?
The legal profession, if I need a lawyer, it's very rare that I'm going to go to the internet or an old-fashioned phone book and just look up like lawyer, lawyer, lawyer. I'm going to go to my network. I'm going to go to friends and family and former coworkers and classmates, and I'm going to say, hey guys, I'm having this problem and I really need a lawyer. Who do you know? And the deeper that relationship is with your clients, the more they trust you, the more that they feel that you give a damn. The more likely they are to even remember you when someone comes to them with that. You know, you know, hiring a lawyer is not like buying shoes. You know, I can just be in the mood to go buy shoes. It's not like I have to wait until there's a need, you know, but lawyers really do have to wait until there's a need. And so you have to be front of mind whenever someone is going through whatever particular problem you solve for them. You know, it's not like someone is just going to randomly say, hey, you know, I really feel like getting divorced today. That sounds like a good use of time and energy and money. So let's get divorced. And then, you know, it's like you have to wait until like their marriage has gotten miserable enough and there's no saving it. And that moment, when they call their best friend and say, I think I need to get divorced, this isn't working, the best friend has to say, you know, I know exactly the person. So that's one. That's one thing that every lawyer should be doing to build their business. The other thing is, remember, you know, referrals are incredible, because if you have a family lawyer who's done wills, trusts, and estates, for instance, they're not going to manage the divorce. They're not going to help with, they may like read over a contract that you have for some real estate investment thing, but they're not going to be the specialist that should be on that case, but they are going to refer you. Every single lawyer should have their own little networking group of other lawyers and professionals that are adjacent to their work, where they're constantly getting together once a month, you know, reminding each other of what everyone does, a success story that they had from a past case or a past client, and then really asking, you know, if you know anyone, you know, who has this problem, please refer them to me. Because here's the thing, if you're the one hosting that call, it doesn't matter if other people are getting business, it's going to be your call. We met on Joe's call, and, you know, Joe's the man. Joe is the person who has this, or, you know, Tina hosts this networking group once a month. It's amazing. You have to go there. Your name is going to be on everyone's lips constantly. And it doesn't matter if you say anything smart there. It's still your call. So everything that gets said there is attributed to you.
Yeah, and maintaining top of mind awareness. I mean, that's we've stressed that year after year after year as marketers for law firms, that, you know, it's the firm with the best brand, the most well-known firm, are often the ones that win consistently. Yeah. And it's the same is true in the networking game. Just being out there, being consistent, that's such valuable advice, Katie.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that as small businesses, you know, we don't have marketing problems. I mean, you and I, Tanner, aren't sitting around wondering how we're going to spend, you know, $7 million on our Super Bowl ad and which celebrity we're going to hire to be in it. We have a memorability problem. We simply need to be remembered by the people who could be our clients.
Katie, any closing thoughts or any advice that would benefit the legal professionals listening today?
So it can feel overwhelming when you're at that stage where you need to scale, and you get a lot of feedback. You get a lot of feedback about, you know, maybe you hire someone and it doesn't go well, or you hire someone and you're not quite sure what to delegate to them. And my advice is don't overthink it. Don't overthink everything. Literally, if you're at that stage and you're bringing on an assistant or a paralegal, all you need to do is go through everything that you do every single day and highlight the things that you absolutely hate doing or that you prefer not to do, and just simply ask them, can you take this on? Can this be your responsibility? And then design from there. Lawyers are so ingrained in the habit of figuring out from step A to step Z and every single possibility within that, you know, track, how things are going to go for their clients. You don't have to do it for this. Delegating doesn't need plan A's, plan B's, plan C's, and plan M's. Okay? It just needs, here's what I would like it to be, and then we figure it out from there. And so, yeah, just stop overthinking things.
Very practical, easy steps forward in that process, and honestly, they often work. If you've made the right hire, you're going to find that those tasks that you despise or you don't like doing, and you find the right person, they're going to be done consistently and better in most instances than had you done them yourself. So that's huge, Katie.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Such valuable advice, and we're grateful for the time you've shared with us. How can listeners reach out to you?
Yeah, if they would love to connect with me, it is easiest to get in touch with me on LinkedIn, honestly, and I'll share my link with you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Katie.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Lawsome by ConsultWebs with Tanner Jones. For show notes, links, and info, go to consultwebs.com/podcast. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review. Watch for the next Lawsome episode to discover more breakthrough insights to build a thriving law firm.